Welcome, Barbie, out there to Don't Pick the Scab podcast. Today, I'm honored to welcome Khaled Ashraf, a pioneering school principal working inside a state correctional facility. Khaled's journey took him from traditional classrooms to the heart of a prison, where he witnessed firsthand how systems can silence and exclude fathers, especially those who are incarcerated. He's become a passionate advocate for fatherhood and educational equity, challenging the hidden curriculum that keeps dads on the sidelines of their children's education. Through his experience leading a school behind bars, Khaled has learned that disconnection isn't about fathers not caring, it's about lack of access, voice, and invitation. He reminds us that parenthood doesn't end at a prison gate and that every father, regardless of circumstance, deserves the chance to be included in their child's educational life. His insights offer vital lessons for all fathers, especially men over 40 rebuilding after a divorce, about resilience, connection, and making a difference no matter the barriers. Welcome to the show, sir. I appreciate your time. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Khaled Ashraf, I am from Philly, PA, born and raised. Started my journey through this whole thing actually as a Philly police officer.
Wow.
And just living my life as a Philly cop. And after a while, I started out really young. I had a child when I was young, and I just needed a job. And was being a cop for a couple of years. When a bunch of older police officers were saying, "Listen, why don't you go back to school, get an education, because one day you're going to get tired of it." So I went back, got an education, and then I just wanted to start teaching. So I just started teaching, wound up teaching in the same community, ironically enough, that I had been a Philadelphia police officer in. And then I just noticed the same things over and over again about how the families were being impacted because the father wasn't around or the house was just broken. And it just led me on to this really long journey that I'm still searching about why are families impacted this way. So it just led me to working in a prison and led me into discovering how fathers are, even if they might be listed on paper, they're often ignored, and just the impact that does for a family.
How did your views about fatherhood change after working with incarcerated men?
Oh, wow. A whole lot. Working in education, and I thought it was just me being a black guy, a black man working in education. I thought because in education, you're used to being considered like the disciplinary. And I
Mm.
thought it was just on the education side. But then I noticed that when we call in fathers, we're only calling in the fathers when Johnny did something wrong. So now you got to come in and you got to be like the disciplinarian. But we never called Johnny's dad when Johnny did something good. So it just led me like, wait a minute, why aren't we calling him for something good? Why are we always our default is the mom? Our default is somebody else. So it really had me thinking about just the way that we treat fathers. Before I was just thinking that they weren't around, or I just went with whatever narrative that the school would give or that the families would give. But then as I started working in schools and everything and learning that narrative might not actually be accurate.
Oh, man. Can you explain what you mean by the hidden curriculum that exists in schools?
It's one of those things that we don't talk about. We don't really particularly ask about where the fathers are, where the other half of the family is. I'll give you a perfect example. When I used to teach in Philly, in a school in Philly, we tried this program. We rolled out this moms with, what was it? Muffins with moms and donuts with dad. And of course, the muffins with mom was really successful. The donuts with dad was even more successful. But what was really interesting about that was when the dads came in there, it was almost like they were suffering from imposter syndrome. Wow, I'm really in the room right now. So what do? I can't believe what to do. So I'm recognizing it in real time and trying to make them feel comfortable. It's okay. You can be engaged. But it was just like they felt, I can't believe I've actually been invited in and I'm not here to be like bringing the law down. And it's that hidden curriculum. It's that thing that we don't talk about that's pretty obvious that even though we don't say anything, we're not spreading those invitations to bring the fathers into conversations. We're not asking about where the fathers are, or can we get an email? Can we reach out to them? Unless the state is saying by law that you can't reach out to the father, then make sure that he's a part of that conversation. Invite him into the conversation.
Wow. What are some of the common misconceptions about incarcerated fathers and their involvement with their children?
That they're not involved. So many times, every single day when I'm in school, I'm watching those conversations. I'm listening to those conversations where the fathers are trying to build those relationships from inside our institution, but they can't. The schools want to shut them out because they're saying that the father's not available. But again, unless the state is saying the father can't be involved, there's no reason not to be. Even if it's just to say, here's Johnny's grades, get that conversation going. Because a lot of times what I know is that my students, they're having those conversations. They're on the phones in the afternoons and evenings trying to help their kids do the homework and everything. So they're involved. And the schools are just completely shutting them out. They're just dismissing them as if they're absent fathers. And it's clear that they're not absent. They're in their child's life, but the school's not recognizing it.
So how do you deal with, let's go with the double whammy. You got a
Yeah.
diverse incarcerated father.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
got like double duty. The
Oh, yeah.
odds are stacked against him big time.
And that's one of the biggest things I deal with is that because one, being educator, they're coming there to learn. They're bringing a lot of trauma from the fact that they're already incarcerated. And then they might be going through a lot of family issues because the families just, they need to continue on and try to give that child some stability. And so they're feeling a lot of trauma. They're like feeling helpless. They're going through this multitude of feelings, and you just got to help them navigate through that and push through it. And it's rough, brother. It's rough, and still trying to make they get the education that they need so that they don't come back in and reoffend and go through the entire system all over again.
So how do you think we can get schools to step it up, not overlook or exclude fathers from the communication while they're incarcerated? How can we get schools more involved?
One of the ways is I know that over the summer we partner with the Philadelphia School District, and they actually had a program where they brought some teachers in, and then the teachers were able to sit down and listen to our guys and the stories and the trauma. And
Oh, okay.
uh, yeah, and then they were able to go back there and relay that to other teachers. So it was a really great experience. The incarcerated guys got a chance to actually talk about the impacts that their teachers made, the things that they could have done better, the things that they wish the teachers knew.
Okay.
And then the teachers were able to actually relate that and give that information back to other teachers when they went back to the school district. It definitely starts with the teachers being educated.
Yeah. What role does
Mhm.
shame? Shame is big.
It's really big.
Even just being divorced and not incarcerated, but shame is huge. How does
Yeah.
a guy get past that shame marker?
It's the trauma. It's the trauma. And it's just a lot of them, they need permission. They feel as if they need permission. Going back to that donuts with dad, just they need to feel like they have permission to be heard. They need to be told, yeah, you have permission to move on and get past this. You have to constantly validate who they are and allow them to heal. It's one of the biggest things that we're constantly trying to work with them on is just trying to heal and trying to move past that trauma.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing struggle.
Yeah. How do we handle society's expectations of mothers and fathers that are still outdated as in terms of incarcerated dads? The expectations for society, they're probably really outdated at this point.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I'm talking about with the whole hidden curriculum. Because if they don't see them, they just presume that they don't exist. If and a lot of the forms that you see working in the institution, obviously we don't deal as much with families, but I came from a traditional school district, whereas the forms, they're not really pushing too much information a lot of times. Or they're just like, okay, mom is the point of contact, or is there a grandfather, grandmom, or anybody else? But what about dad? And that's one of the things that as a school principal that I'm always pushing when I'm talking to like principals out there and schools out there in the communities. Hey, listen, engage with your families. Find out exactly where the father is and see if you can loop them in. A lot of times, these guys can even do like a three-way, a phone call, so that they can be involved in their child's life. But the schools, like you said, they're dealing with the old way of doing things. If I don't see dad, then he doesn't exist. And dad is clearly in that child's life, working with them on homework, working with them, trying to encourage them to be good to mom, even though that he's not there to help out. Feeling that trauma, he's feeling that pain, he's feeling the loss of not being there, and he's seeing it, and he's doing his best a lot of times than he can from where he is.
I had a therapist I was talking to a couple of months ago. We were talking about the alienation part, which we talked about in the
Oh
pre-interview,
yeah.
and
Oh
that's really
sure.
big with even non-incarcerated dads. And she
Yeah.
says the one way to combat that is not stopping to trying to connect with the kid. Send letters, keep the communication open, because it gets to a point where they're older. You say, hey, I got all these letters. I tried to reach out to you. So it's almost like you don't give up no matter what do you think
Right,
about
exactly, exactly. I agree, I agree, and sending letters is so important. We have this program, Read to Your Child. It's really geared for those under 12, where the dads inside can read like a passage of a storybook and send it home. Just those small things so that child can actually have something to hold on to. It is really so important. And we're constantly encouraging them to write, to call as much as possible, to be that homework buddy. We're really pushing like being a homework buddy because there's times where they could just sit down and just work through a couple of math problems. They have limited time on the phones,
it.
but just to be able to do that, it really goes a long way. It's helping extend that communication, seeing that dad's being involved, dad's caring, and also it furthers the conversation later on. Hey, how'd you do on that problem that I helped you at on that math test that you were about to have, and start having those conversations. And it also helps talk about resilience and build that resilience that you really need in situations like that.
I think also that when either incarcerated or not, dads take a hit in all the self cousins, self confidence, self respect, self
Yeah.
care, all the self cousins all take a hit when you go through that.
Exactly, exactly. And that's the hardest part about this. It's just getting stuck in your own mind and just letting them have permission to feel that and to be able to move on from it because being stuck you got to get them unstuck from that, and it's hard even if you're not incarcerated, going through a divorce, going through a separation. It's hard enough, and then being not being able to control the situation, it's rough because as men we can handle everything, we're supposed to be strong, but what if you can't control it? What do you do in that situation?
I know there's that reintegration piece with like ComCore or trying to reintegrate into society after you're incarcerated. Are there any
Yeah,
programs for reintegrating with your family or your kids?
there are some, and I think there are some states that do a little bit better than others. That's actually a big part of what I'm trying to do, to get more out there. And that's why the hidden curriculum of paternal engagement theory, the theory that I came up with, that's what that's mainly about. Getting fathers re-engaged, trying to build those relationships back. And it's hard. The hardest part is because schools don't even realize that it's happening. They're like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah.
But it's not. It shouldn't be normal. So Do those programs exist? Not to the extent that we really need them to.
Me too. So let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes,
How do you see race and systemic bias playing into challenges fathers face?
a lot. Uh, but you know what? It's interesting, though. It's interesting. Of course, race definitely plays a big part because, unfortunately, black and brown men are the one of the highest populations incarcerated. But this hidden curriculum, it goes across color barriers.
Up the board. Hey, there you go. Interesting.
And it's really interesting. And it's interesting because it goes so it don't matter what color you are, that you're already going to have that strike against you. And then when you add in that elephant in the room of being incarcerated and having all those stereotypes and everything against you stacked against you already, it can seem like overwhelming and you're just pretty much defeated before you even start.
Yep.
It's rough.
Wow. What's been the most surprising lesson you've learned from leading a school inside a prison?
I think probably the most surprising thing is that people are just stuck. And it might seem weird to say, but when we're looking at a society now where we got 24-hour news cycles and everything's constantly going,
Right.
to have a conversation with people that just seem like they're stuck in time. Like you said earlier about how we have this antiquated system. I've got a whole school full of folks that are just stuck in one spot, and it's almost like they're frozen in time. And my job as an educator, my job as leading that school is try to get them unstuck, trying to break those chains and keep moving them forward.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing many different hats trying to accomplish that goal. And I'm always in awe about how they got stuck. And I'm always asking them, where did this start? Where did it just happen overnight? How did this happen? And the answer is almost always the same. You know, back in school, X, Y, and Z happened, or as I was growing up, X, Y, Z happened. And it's always
Okay.
the same thing.
Oh,
You know?
interesting.
Yeah.
How do you help fathers cope with regret or missed milestones? I know they miss a lot of milestones. How do you help them cope with that?
It's a really delicate dance, particularly being in a prison, because again, so prison, it's all about custody, control, and my role is none of that. My role is to educate them. My role is to bring an environment that they can learn. So where the way my school is, we have an entire wing separate from, not separate. You go up there, it's an entire wing. So it's away from the prison, so to speak. So always say, leave all those troubles, leave all that trauma right there at the door. And then let's work on what we need to work on up here. And so you have the realest conversations with them. And then before you can even get to the learning, before you can even get to educating them, you got to do so much repair on the trauma, and then just sitting there and then just helping them dissect what can they control and what can't they control. One of the biggest things I say is control the controllables, and the rest of the stuff you're just going to have to let it go.
Yep. So you wear two hats, basically.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. But when they're missing those big things, and I don't think a week goes by where guys are saying about how they miss like a birthday, or a loved one is sick, or a loved one has passed. And then just at moments like that, you just pretty much just sit there and you're just being there, being present for them while they're just going through it, because there's really not much more that you can do, other than just try to be that listening ear and help them push through that trauma.
Speak to my men out there that have given up hope on their kids and explain to them the impact that the father's involvement, even from a distance, has on a child's life, the ones that are on the verge of giving up. Speak to them for me.
No, you absolutely can't give up. You can't, because whether it seems like you think that they can handle it or they'll understand it because you and the spouse, you guys are going through so much that it's not fair to the kid, whatever. I've heard so many different variations of it. Th- At the end of the day, that child is going to feel that pain, whether it be immediately or years from then. That trauma is going to always be with them, and they're going to be feeling it. And if maybe one day they'll be courageous enough to have that conversation with you and say, hey, that really hurt me, or you're going to see it some kind of way, but you can't ever get that back. Don't give up. Don't give up. Even if you're just doing it from a distance, even if you're just writing letters or just having phone calls, do whatever you got to do to stay actively engaged in that child's life.
So, what are some of the first steps a father can take to re enter their child's educational life?
That's great. So reach out to the school. Just introduce yourself. If you're shy, if you're worried about it, start with the email, introducing yourself. Depending on the school, there might be like a dean, or I would even start with maybe just a guidance counselor in the school. And then just say, hey, listen, I just want to make sure that I can be called for like parent teacher meetings, or can you at least just put me on and send me a copy of the report card? Just make sure that they know that you're someone that they can call on and count on. Call on and count on. So that means that if they call you, make sure that you're available. Don't put them off. If you're working, I get it. And then if you are working, if you're unavailable at that time, try to figure out another time that you can be available to handle that meeting. Because the schools want to know that you're somebody that they can call on.
How do you measure success in your work with incarcerated fathers?
I think for me, graduation day is probably the day that I measure it the best. And yeah, of course, you can always measure it that way. That's how most schools measure it. But I don't mean it like that at all. I don't mean it like that at all. Because, yeah, they get that piece of paper. But I don't mean that at all. Because for these guys, graduation isn't really that piece of paper. It's not at all. For them, that piece of paper actually means that, wow, first of all, somebody actually said that they believe in me. And then this is evidence that they really did believe in me. And second of all, wow, I really can do something. Even though my mama might have told me, or somebody might have told me that I can't do it, or I'll never amount to. So we measure it by that. We measure it by the feedback that we get, constantly checking in with them, seeing that they can leave that trauma at the door and be able to start to learn, be able to have goals. Also, the success of, are you creating your own why now? When they first come in there, it might be because the courts told me I have to come up here. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to do my time. But then after a while, their why starts to change because my child just had a child and I want to be there for my grandson. Or I want to be there. I want a better pop than I was a pop. When the why starts to change, that's when we know that they're starting to change.
Gotcha. What resources are available for fathers who want to be more involved? For like my listeners out there, what resources can a divorced dad over 40 reach out to in order to be more involved when they don't know where to start?
Again, probably one of the best places to start as far as getting involved with schools, I will reach out to the guidance counselors or the social workers, and depending on your school district. But they actually have all those resources. And that's another thing. They have the resources available, but they're not sharing them. Just like you just asked, if they would just ask, oh yeah, they've got a whole list of resources that they can share with the dads. But nobody knows to ask. And
Gotcha.
they don't think to even share that information. So the first person that I would call if you want to be actively involved in your child's school and start to rebuild those relationships, get in contact with the social worker or the counselor within that school and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to be more involved. What can I do?
There you go. And finally, what message would you share with fathers over 40 who feel their chance to connect is past? What's a broad message you can give to them today?
Start tonight. even with a simple text.
All right.
Start with just even a simple text saying, "Hey, just thinking about you." Maybe saying "I love you" might be a little bit too weird to send to a kid that you haven't communicated with for a
Mhm.
while. But just send out a simple text saying "just thinking about you," and just build from there. Just remember, every day you can do something, but start with even a simple text tonight before you even go to sleep. "Hey, just thinking about you," and
There you
seeing
go.
where it takes you.
Man, I appreciate this. This has been fun.
Hey,
This is
hey,
very
thank you.
much fun. I really appreciate you. Is
Yeah,
there any way or anywhere on the internet where the guys can reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Khaled Ashraf. You'll see me on there. Reach out. I would love to have the conversation and keep it going, building that. And if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, then I can get more resources to folks no matter where you are. I'll do a little bit of the homework and connect you. But the most important thing is that you get involved in your child's life and start to rebuild that.
There you go. And we will have all those connections in the show notes. But man, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. You never
Hey,
know how
thank you so
podcasts might
much.
go, and this has been great. We'll have to definitely do this again because I think we just scratched the surface. But I appreciate you for hanging out with me tonight and hold on to the mic for a second.